Hello there, welcome to our video for Mug for Comma Rule Notes. Our mug video for today is going to pick up where we left off last week. Last week we were talking about Comma Rules Part 1, where we went over the first 4 rules of how to use commas. Today we're going to talk about 4 more. So please make sure you have your notebook sheet of paper, and across the top we are going to fill in our header, and first and last name, date, and period should be going in the top right-hand corner of your notes. So today's heading should say something like Mug number 4, Comma Rules Part 2. Please make sure that you include what Mug 4 is going to be about, in our case Comma Rules Part 2, because when you are flipping through your notes and studying for any kind of test or quiz, you want to be able to jump right to the information instead of having to read all your notes to figure out what these notes were about. Alright, here we go. Don't worry, there's only one slide today. So, since we went over the first 4 rules last time, I'm just going to continue the list with numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8. We use commas to set off appositives, and a positive is a phrase that renames or explains a noun. And this is going to be a little more obvious when I give you an example. Please make sure that you write down at least one example when I give them to you. Okay, so Alexander Pope, the Restoration poet, is famous for his monologues. The stuff between the commas here, because it renames or explains this noun, we call this part an appositive. Last time, so Comma Rules Part 1 in Mug 3, we talked about stuff between 2 commas being a part of rule number 4, which was setting off items or setting off things that are either non-essential or non-restrictive. So this thing here is not non-essential, it is not non-restrictive. Instead, this one is an appositive. It is a phrase that is explaining this noun here. Take a look at the second example. Some people argue that forms of social media, such as Instagram and Snapchat, enable people to become more confident in themselves and their ability to vocalize their opinions. So this little phrase right here is explaining more information on social media, forms of social media. So that's why we use commas here. We also use a comma to indicate a direct address. So a direct address is when someone says something directly to someone else. For example, I think you're right, Joey. Because the person, the speaker, I, is talking to someone directly right here named Joey, we know that we need to set off the main phrase with the name. Here's another example. Jaden, you have a big day tomorrow, so make sure to sleep on time. This one, again, we're talking directly to some character named Jaden. We also use commas to set off direct quotes. You are going to be using this especially when we do our essays and blending quotes. But you're also going to keep an eye out for these as we read short stories and other texts. So the more you read, the more you will notice these. For example, Derek said, comma, I dislike concerts because the music is too loud. Or, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live, comma, Dumbledore explained. So if you notice, either it goes before the space and the quote, or after our quote ends, and then there's a space and then a little detail on who's talking. Here's another one. Books and cleverness, comma, exclaimed Hermione, comma, there are more important things, friendship and bravery. So, I wanted to give you these 3 examples. I would recommend that you write down all 3 because this one shows you what a comma would look like to set off direct quotations at the beginning of the quote. This one shows you what it looks like at the end of the quote. And sometimes when we need to interrupt what we're saying, with some kind of tag like we do here, it's important for you to understand that there's a comma that goes where we pause and interrupt the dialogue, and then another comma when we pick it back up again. And last but not least, we use commas with dates, addresses, titles, and numbers. Please make sure that you jot down all of the examples for number 8. If you don't, you're going to regret it. So, in full dates, we set the year off from the rest of the sentence with a pair of commas. If the sentence continues after the year, then a comma goes before and after the year. So, for example, on August 26th, 1920, the 19th Amendment was formally adopted into the U.S. Constitution. There should be a period there. My bad. The reason why we have to have the second comma is because the sentence is continuing after the year. Now, if the sentence said, the 19th Amendment was formally adopted into the United States Constitution on August 26th, 1920, you would put a period at the end instead. When dealing with an address or place name, we separate those as well with commas, but the zip code is not preceded by a comma. So our address is 1005 North Abbey Road, Elyria, Ohio, and then the zip code. If a person has a title following their name, we separate that title from the rest of the sentence with a pair of commas before and after. And by title, I mean something like doctor or PhD or anything like that. If a number is more than 4 digits long, you guys should know this one, we use commas to separate the numbers into groups of 3 starting from the right. So 525,600. Where we have the first set of 3, we're going to include a comma preceding that and then the rest of the numbers. So we start from the right side, count 3, then comma. If you have any questions on any of these 4 rules, please do let me know. Either send me a Canvas message, my message, or write down your questions and we can discuss them in class. Best of luck, and I will see you next week.